everyone, I am Peter from Top Think, and today we are going to learn about 10 signs someone is lying to you. Now, let's begin. Imagine you're at a department store looking for a new shirt to wear to a friend's party. After finding one you like, you ask a salesperson if the shirt looks good on you. They tell you it looks great, so you decide to buy it. It isn't until the day of the party that you realize how terrible the shirt actually looks, which means the salesperson lied just to get you to spend more money at their store. So wouldn't it have been helpful to know that the salesperson was lying? Think about how many situations like this you could avoid if you could figure out when people aren't telling you the truth. You might be thinking that a skill like this isn't all that useful since people don't actually lie that often. The truth is that almost everyone lies every day. In fact, a 2010 study conducted an experiment that measured the number of lies told by the average American. Researchers found that participants lied around 11 times every week. Whether they were big lies, white lies, lies to family members, or lies to friends, the vast majority of people make a habit of lying for one reason or another. Usually these lies are meant to protect other people's feelings, but just like you deciding to waste money on that ugly shirt, that doesn't mean they're always helpful. Luckily, there are a number of ways to tell if someone is lying, which become pretty obvious as the lies get more serious. By paying attention to tells, body language, and other giveaways, you can learn how to understand people's true intentions, even when they try to hide them. Number 1. Fidgeting. Most people are uncomfortable with lying. Whether you want to blame it on all those rules our parents ground into our heads, or the fact that most people just prefer to tell the truth, you can often tell if someone is lying by how physically comfortable they are while they're talking. If you see someone squirming in their chair, twiddling their thumbs, or shifting their hands around, they might be feeling uncomfortable and anxious because subconsciously they don't like lying to you. It's important to remember, however, that fidgeting is only a sign of discomfort if it's unusual for them. In other words, if they crack their knuckles or twirl their hair no matter what mood they're in, then you shouldn't take it as a sign that they're not telling the truth. Number 2. Avoiding eye contact. Another common emotion that shows up alongside a lie is guilt. This plays a much bigger role when friends or family lie to each other because you know the other person on a more personal level. So if you lie about being too busy to help them with something, you might feel bad about making them do it all on their own. This guilt makes it much more challenging to lie to someone's face, even if it's just an innocent white lie. When people do lie like this, they often make a habit of avoiding eye contact because it makes the interaction seem less personal. They might even drop their gaze to the floor, which tells you they're feeling bad about what they've done. If you've ever wondered why people say, "Look me in the eyes and tell me," this is why. Number 3. Vagueness. Most lies aren't designed that well. If you lie about not being available to help your friend move over the weekend, for example, you probably didn't bother to plan out a detailed excuse. Instead, you might have said, "Sorry, I've got plans," or "I would, but I'm really busy that day." So, what happens when they ask for more information? If you were telling the truth, this would be easy and you'd answer right away. But since you're lying, you have to make up something on the spot. You'll probably end up saying something really vague to buy time until you can think of a better answer. So, if you do notice the other person being unusually ambiguous when you ask for concrete details, chances are they aren't telling the truth. Number 4. Repeating questions. Similar to how we buy time by giving really vague answers, people who are lying might also repeat the question back to you as though they didn't hear what you said. Most people don't notice when others do this because it's essentially the same thing as just saying, "What?" Except, in this case, the person is just pretending they didn't hear you. They might also repeat your question to make it sound ridiculous, as though you're in the wrong for even asking it. Let's say you ask a friend, "Did you cheat on that test?" They might answer by saying, "Did I cheat on a test?" By emphasizing certain words, the other person basically tells an implied lie. Why else would this question seem so impossible to them if they didn't actually do it? Generally, someone who's telling the truth will respond with a much simpler "no" or "of course not." So don't let these repeated questions fool you. Number 5. Micro-expressions. No matter how convincing of a liar you are, your own face might still give you away thanks to several muscles that activate whether you want them to or not. These muscles create small, uncontrollable facial movements called microexpressions, which, despite only lasting for a fraction of a second, open up a brief window into someone's true feelings. While they are undoubtedly tiny and difficult to notice, microexpressions can show sadness, anger, or guilt, even if the person is actively trying to suppress those emotions. It can take years of training to be able to reliably recognize microexpressions, but if you do see one, it may mean the person isn't being totally honest. Number 6. Sweating. Unless you're a really practiced liar, you probably experience some sort of stress while bending the truth. Most of this stress stems from our anxieties about being caught, so our body responds the same way it would before a big test or an important speech, by sweating. This perspiration frequently starts on the forehead or upper lip and indicates that you have a reason to be worried. Because if you were telling the truth, you wouldn't have anything to worry about. Of course, like everything on this list, it's important to consider context. Is it hot outside? Did you put the person in a generally stressful situation? Do they sweat all the time, whether they're nervous or not? Sweating doesn't always mean someone's lying, but if you see it in combination with the other signs on this list, it can definitely be a giveaway. Number 7. Response delay. Here's a little exercise you can try with a friend or family member. Start by asking them an impossible question like, "Do you know what you had for breakfast on January 20th in 2005? Unless they have an absolutely amazing memory, they'll probably need some time to think about it, so you'll notice them pause for a while before responding. Now ask them an obvious question such as, "Were you on the moon in January?" This time they'll say no right away, because they didn't need time to think about their answer. How does this exercise relate to lying? If you ask someone a question they should have an immediate answer to, yet you notice a delay in their response, they might be pausing to think of a believable lie. This isn't always the case, but response delay is always important to consider when you suspect someone might be trying to deceive you. Number 8. Blended expressions. Blended expressions happen when we're trying to cover up a real emotion with a fake one. For example, if someone is trying to cover up their anger with a smile, their mouth might be smiling while their eyes look tense or distressed. This is probably the most common blended expression you'll see, because liars frequently use fake smiles to cover up their dishonesty. So, next time someone smiles after telling you something misleading, pay attention to what their eyes and mouth are saying. If one says happy while the other says angry, you're probably right not to trust them. Number 9. Touching the face. Because lying makes people stressed out, you might see them start touching their face, which is a common way for us to relieve physical discomfort. Touching our own bodies calms our nervous system, which tends to go into overdrive when we're stressed. If that happens, it can activate our fight or flight response, so we use our hands to reduce anxiety, slow our heart rate, and keep our stress to a minimum. If you see someone sweating or squirming, then touch their face, it's possible they're hiding something. Number 10. Trust your gut. While this isn't exactly a sign that someone is lying to you, a study in 2014 showed that people can subconsciously recognize dishonesty even if we aren't exactly sure why. This study asked participants to interact with a group of people, some who were lying and some who weren't. Participants couldn't consciously say who the liars were. However, each lie seemed to subconsciously activate cognitive concepts associated with deception. Because of this, when the researchers asked the participants to label each of the people as either honest or dishonest based on their gut reaction, participants were surprisingly accurate. So what does this tell us? If you have a bad feeling about someone, even if you can't quite pinpoint why, you might want to go with your gut. Thank you for watching Top Think, and be sure to subscribe because more incredible content is on the way.